Did you make any progress on either of those two?
I knew those answers would come back to haunt me.
Miss us in person as much as we miss you in person?
Yeah, this whole thing, and it's like, yeah, it's odd. I mean, it's nice not to have to travel for it all, but I do miss human contact. Of course I do. It's not the same as being in the room with people. I think we're all fairly sick of the idea of this proximity as opposed to the real thing. So yeah.
What is something that if you actually had the time?
I was looking back at some of our old interviews. I remember one thing I asked you at one time was, what are some things that you'd like to do if you had more time? We all had a little extra time. Your answer was,
I'd love to be able to play the piano. I really would properly play it. And I've learned for various films. I actually learned for this in a moment that wasn't in the final cut. But what a great musical instrument, and that would be the one. And also, I'd like to know French well enough to be able to dream in French and work in French. I'd love that. I'd love to be able to speak fluent French.
I got to tell you, for your fans, if you learned how to play the piano and spoke French, you would kind of put them over the edge. I think that's pretty impressive.
Did you make any progress on either of those two?
I knew those answers would come back to haunt me. Yeah, I mean, I do. Yeah, I mean, it's anyone with children in lockdown realizes it's kind of irritating when you hear how many people are learning Mandarin in their time off, and you think, yeah, that would be nice.
Right.
But no, in all seriousness, yes, I have found time to improve those skills. I certainly am not dreaming in French, but I'm getting better. And the piano is painfully slow, but I do still practice. I love it. I get a great deal of joy out of that.
Well, this movie, basically, it stays with you, and especially toward the beginning when he's asked to be a spy in the first place, and his reaction is, why me? Have you ever been asked to do something where your initial reaction was, why me?
Often, and I think, if you're an actor, you the minute you get a job, you go, oh, great, and then you go, oh no, why me? Oh no, can I do this? And the sort of self-doubt slams in, and then you just pick yourself up and go, yeah, of course I can. I've done it before. I'll just do it again. And I love throwing myself at challenges I haven't had before. So despite the kind of lurch of cold fear, yeah, you have to go for it. And I think that's the remarkable thing about this character. Dominic Cooke, who I'd worked with before, the director, and I had worked on the Hollow Crown series. I played Richard III for him, and I'd worked previously with him at the Royal Court Theatre. He used to run. We'd been looking for a project for a while. He pitched me this character and this relationship. And that's what hooked me in, this everyman, this ordinary man who does an extraordinary thing. Yeah. Someone who is a portly, happy-go-lucky, charming, but dyslexic to the point of illiterate salesman who's just survived off being chatty and having the gift of the gab. And I was just really hooked by who is this person, even before our story asks him to then courier the most sensitive information that transferred from east to west during the Cold War, but the Cuban Missile Crisis is in this moment. And he was from a very humble background, a Welsh boy with a very ambitious mother who wanted him to better himself. And I don't think that ever really left him. He always wanted to belong to something or be something he wasn't. And that was prevalent to me, even in the pictorial evidence of him. And there's very clear evidence of how stark his reality was and the shift in it between him before his arrest and after his release. He was skeletal to the point of being shrink wrapped around his skeleton and just awash in his clothes, the same clothes that he was wearing in his earlier photographs. And that is what I'm getting onto. This tie he wore was it was a society tie for the Nottingham University Mechanical Engineering Society tie. He never went to Nottingham University. He wasn't part of that club. He was never part of the spy circle that he was working for either. And he felt very grieved about being outside of that. So as an outsider, I was intrigued as to what propels him to do this, how he has to shapeshift, and the challenges he faced, but mainly, and I think this resonates now, is this idea of a man who seemingly in a world that's not that affected by his existence, in a situation that seems completely out of his control, all things I think that resonate with us during a pandemic and the climate crisis, as well as Black Lives Matter and #MeToo, all these turning points and crises that we're facing. And people often feel that they don't have a currency, they don't have much to offer, that I couldn't possibly help. And I think we've seen a lot of heroism where people have. We've also seen people operating in the background of our lives, rather like this guy was a background operator in that extraordinary moment of our history, who have stepped up to the plate, who have shown incredible courage and endurance, and performed in a way tasks that they've never been asked to do until this crisis, and have succeeded. And I think he's an inspiration to remind us that we all have a capability in us that we don't know about. So don't be afraid of those challenges. And it's terrifying when you're asked to face up to them, but you know, if someone like Greville can do it, we all can. And I think that's a hopeful message from the film.
I wish we had more time. It's interesting to see the similarity with Tahar Rahim and Mohamedou Salahi, and another movie you're involved in. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm very, very proud of that one as an actor and as a producer. And Tahar's performance is just exceptional, as is Jodie's. She's so clear and bright and just contains the emotion of it until the crucial point where she realizes what he's endured. And again, it's a story about endurance and shining a light on a dark episode of our so-called democratic world, but also it's really celebratory. It's about an amazing human spirit, an indefatigable one. A man who held on to himself, his belief, his identity, despite every effort to strip him of that, and with such dignity and grace that he's still friends with his captors and torturers. He still writes to them. And Mohamedou's story is one that belongs to him. He's an exceptional voice in the world. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Well, you are a dream to me, but you're a nightmare for the folks on trying to keep time. So thank you.
That's why I felt bad. I also felt bad about saying, nice to meet you. Of course, we've met before.
No, that's okay. Thanks, Benedict. And I'm sorry, you guys, I went a little over. I apologize.
That's me going over there. They're used to it. Don't worry.